He wasn't supposed to be there. Not in that ring. Not with that kind of power, and certainly not with a smile that wide after dropping a future world champion. But Leon Spinks didn't care much about where people said he should be. He had other plans, louder ones. In the middle of a packed gym, wearing Marine Corps green and throwing punches like he was born to do just that, Spinks stormed through the 1974 National AU Tournament. His opponent? A young Michael Dokes, fast, flashy, and talked about like he was next in line for greatness. But Spinks didn't blink. He just walked forward, punched through the noise, and left Dokes behind. That one wasn't a fluke. It was the first of 3 straight national titles he would collect, like medals on a uniform. No one else at the time had that mix. Military training by day, championship fights by night. While others talked about dreams, Leon fought his way into them. And every time they doubted him, he gave them a reason to look twice. Because once Leon Spinks got going, you either got out of his way, or you got left on the mat. This was just the beginning. There was something wild in his smile, like he knew a secret the rest of the world hadn't caught onto yet. When Leon Spinks stepped into the Olympic ring in Montreal, he didn't look like a man chasing gold. He looked like a man taking it. For fights stood between him and the top. For men from 4 corners of the world. Each one tough. Each one sure they had enough. Morocco, the Soviet Union, East Germany, Poland, they all brought their best. But none of them could hold back what Leon carried in his gloves. He was sharp, raw, and fearless. Then came the final. Cuba's Sixto Soria was a fighter people respected. But Spinks didn't come to join a list. He came to make his own. He beat Soria, beat him clean. And just like that, Leon Spinks had Olympic gold hanging from his neck and fire still burning in his chest. He walked away from the amateurs with 178 wins, only 7 losses, and 133 knockouts. That's not just a record, that's a warning. Because if you thought the Olympics were the peak, you hadn't seen anything yet. Spinks was only getting started. Some fighters ease their way into the pro game. Feel things out, take a few soft touches, build slowly. Leon Spinks didn't have time for that. He kicked the door in from day one. His first fight came in Las Vegas. No fanfare, no slow build, just a 5-round knockout that left Bob Smith staring up at the lights. A few weeks later, Spinks crossed the ocean to Liverpool, stepped into the ring, and sent Peter Freeman crashing to the canvas before the first round even had time to get going. People started paying attention. Not because of what he said. Spinks wasn't a talker. It was what he did. He didn't dance around or play the clock. He came to fight, and more often than not, he didn't need long to finish the job. Puerto Rico's Pedro Augusto was next. Bigger name, bigger challenge, same result. 1 round, and it was over. Then came a shift. Spinks met Scott Ledoux in a tough back and forth that ended in a draw. It was the kind of fight that tests your edges. But instead of fading, Spinks responded the way real fighters do. He got better. He outpointed Italy's Alfio Righetti next, showing he could box, not just break. Leon wasn't just climbing the ladder. He was skipping rungs. And people were starting to wonder just how high he could go. Nobody saw it coming. Not from the 8th fight of a young pro. Not against that name. But that night in Las Vegas, the heavyweight world flipped on its head. And Leon Spinks was the one holding the crown. He wasn't supposed to win. The odds said so. The crowd said so. Even Muhammad Ali, standing across the ring with that familiar calm, seemed to believe it was just another dance. But Spinks wasn't there to survive. He came to win, and he fought like he didn't care about legends, rankings, or predictions. From the opening bell, Spinks didn't stop moving. He pressed, jabbed, smiled, and chipped away at the aging Ali round after round. It wasn't lucky. It wasn't close. It was real. By the time the final bell rang, Ali's face told the story, swollen, tired, and beaten by a fighter with only 7 wins on his record. Leon Spinks had done it. He had beaten Muhammad Ali and taken the heavyweight title in just his 8th pro fight, the fastest rise to the belt in history. And just like that, a young man with a gap-toothed grin and a wild heart was on top of the world. The man, the only one to ever take a title from Ali in the ring. But the moment didn't last. When Spinks chose a rematch with Ali instead of facing Ken Norton, the WBC took their belt back and handed it to Norton. That decision meant everything rode on the second fight. And this time, Ali came back ready. Sharper, stronger, and in full control, he boxed smart, kept his distance, and took back his crown over 15 rounds in New Orleans. Spinks never got a third shot. Ollie retired, and the story moved on. But that February night in 1978, that can't be erased. That was Leon's moment. A reminder that every now and then, someone comes along and breaks the rules of how greatness is supposed to look. It's a long drop from the top, especially when you got there faster than anyone ever had. After shocking the world and beating Muhammad Ali, Leon Spinks stood taller than ever. But boxing doesn't hand out lifetime passes, and it doesn't wait for anyone to catch up. His next fight came with a hard reminder. Monte Carlo, 1979. Spinks walked in with hope and walked out after one round on the canvas. Jerry Cutsey didn't waste time. One clean shot, and the message was clear. This stage wasn't safe, not even for a former champ. But Leon never stayed down long. He bounced back, and not just with easy wins. He stopped Alfredo Evangelista, a man who had once gone the distance with Ali. He slugged through a draw with the tough Eddie Lopez, then knocked out Kevin Isaac in May. And just when people were starting to count him out again, Spinks shocked the boxing world one more time, dropping WBC's top-ranked contender Bernardo Mercado in round 9. That one wasn't just a comeback. It opened the door to something bigger, one last shot at the crown. Larry Holmes, the reigning heavyweight king, stood in the way. It was Spinks' only fight in 1981, and his final chance to reclaim what he once had. But Holmes was too sharp, too quick, and too much. By the third round, Spinks wasn't throwing back. He was taking clean shots without an answer, and the ref had seen enough. The title slipped away for good that night. Spinks never got another chance at it. But through the knockdowns, wins, and wild swings of a short, electric rise, one thing was always clear. When Leon Spinks was in the ring, anything could happen. The roar had faded. The spotlight that once followed him into every arena was now chasing someone else. But Leon Spinks, he kept moving forward. He wasn't done. Not yet. After the crushing loss to Larry Holmes, Spinks left the heavyweight scene behind and stepped into a new world, the cruiserweight division. Lighter weight, different names, same hunger. He edged out Ivy Brown over 10 rounds, then went 12 with Jesse Burnett, a man who'd fought for titles and would again. Both wins reminded people Leon still had fight in him. A big one was coming. David Pierce, the top cruiserweight in the world, was set to face Spinks. Everything was ready. The weigh-in was done. But at the last minute, the British Boxing Board shut it down. Just 24 hours before the opening bell, the fight was gone. Then came a strange twist of fate. In 1985, while Leon continued grinding, his younger brother Michael did what few thought possible. He beat Larry Holmes and took the IBF heavyweight title. Suddenly, the Spinks brothers were the only pair in history to both hold heavyweight crowns. For 2 decades, no one touched that record. Leon's journey didn't stop in the ring. He crossed over to New Japan Pro Wrestling, stepping into the world of scripted brawls and stiff elbows. One of those matches saw him tap out to Antonio Inoki, a legend in his own right. It was a wild chapter, but one that matched Spinks' unpredictable spirit. In 1986, Leon got one last crack at a title. Dwight Muhammad Qawi, rough, relentless, stood in the opposite corner for the WBA cruiserweight belt. Qawi had lost to Michael Spinks 3 years earlier, but Leon couldn't repeat the result. He was stopped in round 6. Still, he kept fighting. For years. Through small shows, tough losses, and brief flashes of what once was. Then came 1994, a strange and bitter moment. Spinks was knocked out by a man, making his pro debut. What no one knew at the time was that the man's record was fake, patched together by a shady promoter to get the fight approved. Leon's final bout came in 1995. He was 42, facing Fred Haupt, a fighter returning from a 17-year layoff. Spinks lost on points, and just like that, the wild ride was over. He didn't leave the sport with fanfare, but he left something else, a story no one could copy. A whirlwind career full of shocks, punches, setbacks, and glory. Because no matter what came after, Leon Spinks had once done the impossible, and the world would never forget it. He once stunned the world with a smile, missing a tooth, and a punch that wouldn't quit. But long after the championship belts were gone, Leon Spinks kept showing up, in places no one expected, doing things no one could script. In 1986, Spinks stepped into a very different ring. This time, it wasn't boxing. It was a mixed-rules match in Japan against a national icon, Antonio Inoki. It wasn't Leon's world, and it showed. He lost, but the crowd loved him. The wildness, the guts, the unpredictable edge, Spinks still had it. 4 years later, in Memphis, he turned up again, this time in the United States Wrestling Association. Another loss, this one to Jerry Lawler, by disqualification. But Leon wasn't chasing wins anymore. He was chasing the next moment, the next crowd, the next memory. Then came Frontier Martial Arts Wrestling in Japan. Blood, chaos, barbed wire. It was everything boxing wasn't. Spinks teamed up with Rufus Blackburn, then Dr. Luther, and even captured FMW's Brass Knuckles Heavyweight Championship in 1992. For a brief flash, he was a world champion again, making him one of the few men to ever hold titles in both boxing and pro wrestling. Only Primo Carnera had done that before. The wild ride kept going. He feuded with Terry Funk, a man known for madness inside the ring, then hung up his boots later that year. Wrestling was over, but Spinks wasn't done finding new ways to keep moving. By the late 90s, Leon was a regular on the autograph circuit. Fans lined up, not just for a signature, but to shake hands with the man who once shocked Ollie. He headlined events, shared stories, and laughed loud. That gap-toothed grin never faded. By 2005, life had changed. Spinks was working quiet jobs in Columbus, Nebraska, mopping floors at the YMCA, flipping burgers at McDonald's. No headlines, no cameras. But when asked, he called life comfortable. He wasn't chasing anything anymore. In 2009, the world remembered. Facing Ollie, a documentary about the men who fought the greatest, brought Leon back into the spotlight. He spoke with heart, raw and real, about the night everything changed and how it changed him. His final years were spent in Las Vegas, keeping low, living easy. Then in 2017, something special happened. Leon and his brother Michael were both inducted into the Nevada Boxing Hall of Fame. It was a rare, quiet honor for a man whose life had been anything but quiet. From Olympic gold to world titles, from wrestling rings to fast food counters, Leon Spinks lived it all. Wild, messy, unpredictable, unforgettable. He didn't follow a path. He made his own. There were moments in Leon Spinks' life that played out like a movie. Sudden turns, tough battles, and the kind of surprises that make people lean in a little closer. But away from the ring and the crowds, Leon lived a life with deep highs and painful lows. One that touched generations of his family and left behind a story no headline could fully capture. He came up tough in St. Louis, a place that shaped him long before the world knew his name. It was there he learned to scrap, to survive, to push back when the odds said stop. Years later, that same fight showed up in his bloodline. His son, Corey Spinks, carried the name with pride and with power. Corey became undisputed welterweight champion and won the IBF junior middleweight title twice. Different time, different style, but the same fire. But not every chapter ended with a belt or applause. In 1990, Leon's other son, Leon Calvin, was gunned down in East St. Louis while driving home from his girlfriend's house. Calvin was just getting started in the fight game. 2 wins, both in the same month he was killed. It hit hard. A young boxer gone too soon, a father left to hold the weight. Years later, another Spinks would step into the ring. Leon Spinks III, Calvin's son, kept the gloves in the family. A lefty light heavyweight, he built up a record of 11-3-1 with 7 knockouts to his name. In 2017, he battled to a draw against Robbie Cannon, showing the name still had some fight left in it. As Leon aged, the toll of his career began to show. The way he talked changed, slower, sometimes slurred. In 2012, doctors found shrinkage in his brain, likely from all the punches he took during his wild ride through boxing. But still, he lived with a smile, even when the noise had faded. In 2011, he and his wife Brenda made a move to Las Vegas. A quieter life, less noise, more peace. He was in and out of the hospital in 2014 for abdominal surgeries, but he pulled through. Then came the hardest fight of all, advanced prostate cancer. Leon Spinks passed away on February 5, 2021, in Henderson, Nevada. He was 67. No crowd, no gold belt, just a quiet goodbye to a man who once shook the world and spent the rest of his life trying to hold on to the pieces. But in the homes of boxing fans, in family photos, in old footage and new fighters carrying his name, Leon Spinks is still swinging, still smiling, still standing. Leon Spinks may have left the ring for good, but his story is far from over. From a young man with a dream to a world champion, from joy to heartbreak, he lived a life that defied the odds at every turn. His legacy isn't just in the titles or the moments that made the crowd roar. It's in the quiet strength he showed, the family he inspired, and the fight he carried with him, no matter what.